Today, you're going to hear 3 real accounts from country folk who were followed in the dark. And there's a sound that keeps returning, the gate bell clanging in the small hours.
The gate at the spring. I taught in a rural school and walked from the bus stop to my mother's small farm, almost 2 kilometers. Dry afternoon, smell of burnt grass. Every time I passed the spring, the gate bell at Sitio Santana rang twice. Always twice, even with no wind. At first, I thought it was a cow rubbing against the wire, until I saw, in the water's reflection, a man in a cap standing on the other side of the fence. He pretended to look at the ground. I pretended I didn't see him. On Sunday, I went to Mass and told Father Heriberto. He listened, stroked his beard, and said that in that region, a gate has an owner and a saint. He said the saint guards the boundary and the owner guards the rest, and that when the bell rings like a set signal, it's someone giving a warning. He told me not to walk alone too late, to alert neighbors, and to put a white cloth in my bag. He said white cloth scares off muddle and makes a curious show themselves. I left church with sweaty hands. I also told Dona Nilda, an old midwife who lives across from the spring. She said she had already seen the same man in a cap circling other girls on the way to the fields. Said he rings a bell in a way to tell if the person is alone. She told me to change the time I came back, and if I heard the bell twice, to go into the little churchyard and wait for someone to pass. A boundary isn't a defense, it's only a warning, she said. I swallowed hard. On Tuesday, I caught the 6 o'clock bus, the sky turning purple. I got off, tied the white cloth to my bag strap, and took the road, walking closer to the sugarcane fence. The spring appeared, a small glint among the stones. Before I heard the bell, I felt eyes on my back. The bell rang twice. Again. My heart jolted. I looked in the water's reflection. The man in a cap was closer, inside Sitio Santana, walking at the same pace as me, not in a hurry, like it was a stroll. I said out loud to myself that I was going to the little church. My voice came out thin. The man kept on. When I reached the chapel's gate, Santana's bell rang a 3rd time, which it had never done. I went into the yard, fastened the chain on the inside, and stayed there, hidden behind the big cross. I felt my hands tingle. The man stopped on the road, looked at the chapel, then at Santana's gate. He stayed there, listening. The bell didn't ring again. Then he picked up a pebble and tapped the post, as if trying to make the sound himself. The sound came out wrong, dragged. He gave up and left slowly, the way he came. Next day, I asked Silvaldir, a neighbor with a mean dog and old pickup, for help. He said he had noticed a makeshift shack at the edge of the brush near Santana's fence. At night, he went with me to the spring. We left the pickup off the road. I took the white cloth again. When I stepped on the spring's gravel, the bell rang twice. Silvaldir motioned for me to stay put and went around, skirting the brush. The man in the cap appeared in the fence shadow. Couldn't see his face well. He kept looking at my hand holding the cloth, as if counting the timing of my steps. I said, on purpose, that I was going to get my brother. The man turned his cat backwards, like someone deciding whether to wait or run. Sylvaldir shouted that he had seen everything, that the man should stop it. I'll never forget, the man did not run. He just walked backwards, vanishing among the clumps, like that patch of night belonged to him. When we got near the fence, we found a nylon line tied to the bell's tip. The line ran through the grass to the shack. In the shack, there was a water bottle, 2 stale loaves, a little notebook with schedules. My schedules. In the notebook, there was also a crude drawing of the spring and an X on the little church. We took the notebook to the father and called the sergeant from the outpost. The sergeant said they already had reports of a guy prowling fields and bus stops, always near gates with bells. They never caught him because he switched sides of the fence and the road is long. The father asked me to stay at the catechist's house for a few days. When I returned to my mother's, they tied Santana's bell with wires so it wouldn't ring for nothing. Even so, one dawn I awoke to 2 clear chimes. I went to the window. The yard was quiet, my heart racing. The wire was still there, holding the clapper, which means the sound came from somewhere else. Next day, we saw footprints by the roadside heading towards a little church. The sergeant came by in the morning. They found the cut nylon line on the ground and nothing else. I moved to the city after that year. I come back to visit my mother. When I pass the spring, I don't look at the reflection. And the white cloth, I still carry it. A boundary doesn't protect. A boundary warns. If the warning comes, change your pace. They say whoever hears the bell at dawn has to pay an old debt. Sometimes the debt is yours. Sometimes it belongs to someone else who chose to follow you.
The walker of the old road. I was on my motorcycle, moonless night, dust kicking up behind me. The gas tank was almost on reserve. As I passed the gate of Sitio Miring, the bell rang by itself, 3 short chimes. I felt the leather seat go cold. My visor fogged up. I didn't stop. Only the sound came again, closer. I sped up, looked in the mirror. I saw a man walking in the middle of the road, far, but walking toward me. The chain on my neck stuck to my skin. I thought, if I fall, that guy will catch up to me. The next day, I told Seonofre, the gas station owner. He wiped his hand on a rag and said there's an old cross on the embankment at that bend. Said a wayfarer died there on a night of a vow. He also said that when the gate bell rings with no wind, it's because the walker is passing by, asking people to complete what was left unfinished. I told him I don't believe in that stuff. He answered I didn't have to believe, just respect it. And he told me not to give rides, not to curse, and not to look straight if the man showed up again. He told me to leave a strip of ribbon on the cross at that bend when I passed there. A broken vow attracts company, he said. I laughed, but inside I didn't laugh. 2 nights later, I had to get home late from work, the bike's tank on reserve again. When I reached the same gate, the bell rang once out of nowhere. I turned the bike off to see if it was wind. There was no wind, only crickets and that sound from the pond down below. The bell rang again, twice now. My stomach turned. I mounted the bike,
turned the key, and heard a step on the gravel behind me. Soft. I turned my neck slowly. The man was closer. Low hat, dusty dark clothes, bare feet. Not a ghost, a person. I tried to say, "Do you need something?" but my mouth made no sound. He stopped 5 meters away, stayed there looking at the ground like someone who's waiting. I started the bike, but my hand shook. The bell rang again, 3 times now. The man raised his face. I didn't see his eyes, only the head's shadow. He lifted his hand and pointed to the bend where the cross is. Then he made a simple gesture with his fingers, like someone asking, "Do you give it back?" The first time I passed that cross, a few months before, I had taken a little blue ribbon that was tangled in the wire. I don't know why. Foolish curiosity. I kept it in the bike's glove box. Right then, I opened the glove box with my nail, pulled the ribbon out, and showed it to the man. I said out loud, short of breath, that I would return it to the cross now. He didn't answer. He just lowered his hand. I went, parked the bike at the bend, headlight aiming at the bank. The cross was there, crooked. The ground was soft. I put the ribbon back on the wire, tied a clumsy knot, and said I wouldn't mess with it anymore. I said it quietly, looking at the ground. When I came back to the bike, the man was no longer there. The road felt empty in a way that makes you dizzy. The bell didn't ring again that night. Next day, Sir Onofre said that walker was a man who went on pilgrimages carrying other people's vow ribbons. One day, a truck ran over him there at the bend. He said a ribbon was still missing. I told him about the ribbon and showed the wire mark on my finger. He looked at me seriously and said I'd done the right thing. He also told me not to brag about it, that vows are settled in silence. I went back a week later in daylight. There were other ribbons tied there in many colors. My blue one was there, fluttering in the light wind. No bell rang.
The Mute at the Gate. After Marina died, I stayed alone in her father's house, taking care of some calves in the garden. At night, I wrote in a notebook what was left to pay, what was left to harvest. In the silence, you could hear the creek far off, and now and then, the gate bell rang just once, dry, like someone touched it and took their hand away. Every time the bell rang, I felt her close. It's hard to say, but it hurt less when I pretended it was Marina touching it to call me. One day, I mentioned it to Zazim Bayadado, who brings salt and feed in his pickup. He said there's a mute pilgrim who passes by there every year. Said the fellow vowed not to speak until he finished something old. He walks by fence lines, sleeps in straw sheds, asks for water with gestures. Don't be scared if he stops at your gate, he said. If he asks for what's his, give it back. I also told Zephinia from the shop, who's sharp-tongued but kind. She reminded me that at Marina's wake, I took off her wooden bead rosary, a gift from a lady from the Romaria do Divino. I took it off because I thought it would break in the coffin. I kept it in the drawer to return later. I never did. When she said that, my chest tightened. The next night, the bell rang twice. I went out with the flashlight, light sweeping the yard, the dog frozen, tail tucked. I went to the gate, nothing. The road black, the brush moving slightly. I left a glass of water on the post, just like that. Ashamed I didn't have the courage to wait. Next morning, the glass was tipped over, dry. And in the dust of the threshold, there was a mark as if someone had run 2 fingers side by side.
It looked like a drawing by someone who didn't want to speak, just marked presence. In the afternoon, I came back from the fields with sweaty clothes. When I got near, the bell rang once and stopped, like a set signal. I saw a thin man, straw hat, worn pants, standing outside. He looked at the ground at the side of the gate. I said I had water and bread. He raised his hand, opened his fingers, closed them again like marking 5 and asking for 5 more. I didn't understand. He pointed at his heart and then mined a rosary, those beads running in the hand. Right then, I understood what Zafina had said. I said out loud that the rosary was with me and I would get it to give back. He stood there, blinking slowly, didn't say a word. I went to the dresser. The drawer stuck like it had glued shut. I breathed, pulled hard, and found the wooden rosary among some ribbons and papers. When I got back, the man was still there. I said the rosary belonged to Marina, given by a lady from a pilgrimage, and that I should have returned it. I said I would take the rosary to the cross by the road, the one near the ochiciero tree where people leave candles and vows. The man lifted his head a little. I saw he cried without sound. The tear ran down, but his mouth stayed straight, closed. He pointed to the cross and to me, like saying, "Let's go." I opened the chain on the gate. The dog wouldn't come. The bell rang with the loose chain, a soft chime. We walked in silence to the cross. The ground was cold. I fastened the rosary to the nail in the wood. I said Marina's name. I said I was keeping her vow. I prayed in my crooked way. The man put his hand on his chest like giving thanks. Then he leaned his forehead on the wood, breathed deep, and stayed quiet. On the way back, he walked me to the gate, stopped outside. He tapped his pocket and took out a folded paper, gave it to me. On the paper, there was an old photo, Marina, younger, with a headscarf lady holding the same rosary. On the back, written in shaky letters, "Finish it for me." I felt heat on my face. When I looked up, the man was already walking, fading lightly into the road's dust. The bell didn't ring. The next Sunday, Zazim said they saw a mute pilgrim by the highway, walking with a group. No one knew his name. They only said he asked for nothing. He just reminded. At home, at night, I still sometimes hear a soft metal chime. It could be the wind. It might not be. But I returned what had to be returned. Don't hold on to what was vowed. Whoever keeps what belongs to others ends up followed.